Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another quick version of the Shiny Review. We've got two cards to talk about, the new Produce SSR for Toru and the Support SSR for Kaho. Keep in mind that both of them are permanent. The banner is also kind of bad. They've done this thing that they've done before where this banner does not have a spark to it, so you can't even pity the cards. So what you have to do is the step up, which is paid only gems, and you get either of the cards if you go the whole way, which as you can see is a little over 5,000 gems, so roughly $50 USD depending on conversion rates. So if you think it's worth it for a permanent, go for it. If not, I wouldn't worry about it. You can get these cards at any point in the future. Starting off, of course, with Toru. She is a mixed unit, starting at Dance, becoming a visual unit. Her animation is actually, like, fine. It's neat, to say the least. I always appreciate when Shiny gets to be a little more stylistic in its lighting and its atmosphere. So having that with Toru is not too surprising, and I appreciate it, even if the animation itself is relatively simple. The fast animation is about what we'd expect from the last few Nocchill cards. There is certainly some clear theming going on. The whole dyeing the world in your own color, but also the overemphasis on water when we had just gotten out of water in some of the previous sets and are now kind of plunging back in. For those that have been digging more into the lore, you can probably answer that better than I can. But overall, it's fine. Now anyway, back to Toru herself. As mentioned before, she's a dance unit initially, then she becomes a visual unit. Her dance appeal is a 3.0 that buffs your dance by 20% for 2 turns each time you're hit, which can be stacked twice within 3 turns. Oh, oops. I forgot that was a feature. Anyway, this is where we want to look. Now, you can link appeal off of this with Koito and Hinata, which gives you a 1000% attention buff for 2 turns that also applies a mental damage cut of 75% for 2 turns. So, think of it like Kaho 1. You raise your attention by a ludicrous amount, but you probably aren't taking damage the turns that you are hit. The secondary is a visual 4.5 that raises your visual by 40% for 3 turns with each successful dodge. So you link this with Madoka in order to get a 30% evasion buff for 2 turns. You have 2 turns to stack up the visual 40% buffs, and you can stack it up to 3 times. So it's fine. Her passives are not really that crazy. Her 1-star passive is okay. It's a 30% up with 50% attention. The dance visual 75% up and attention 30% up as long as it is, I believe, after turn 3, and Toru has to be in your skill history. So this already sort of discounts Toru from being your center unless you want this passive really late for some reason. Her stat uncaps are fine. They're just like a standard like 250-ish. So that means you can build her fairly evenly between dance and visual. But as we've seen in the past, unless you're Illumine, you probably aren't doing that too well. Her memory appeal when maxed out is a dance visual 1.5 that follows up with a dance visual 2.0. It's okay. It's a little clunky in practice because, again, building dual stat is not always the most ideal thing to be doing. So you can maybe make it work, but I wouldn't try to depend on it, especially if you want to make use of her gold passive, which is really the only other thing she has going for her, as her appeals are kind of weak, and they definitely require some care to make them work particularly well. If you want a letter grade, I'm going to give her a very clear B-, maybe a B. She's okay filler if you don't use Toru as a main proponent to your teams, but I wouldn't say that this is a card you can really revolve around per se. It's a card you just have for the sake of it. So maybe in certain circumstances you may use this card for bonus points and fests in the later grades if you really need them. So we will simply have to see. Now, our second card, of course, is Kaho, the Valentine's card, which is a pure vocal support. She focuses on vocal and SP growth coupled with vocal stamina, and her passives are okay-ish. Much like Toru, she only has one particularly good passive, which is her gold passive. This, in this case, is a vocal 70% up with a 50% attention raise as long as your mental is 75% or higher, and it has a 20% chance to activate once. This is sort of a side grade from Sick Day Kaho, who has a vocal 70% up passive as well, but it has 100% up attention at the cost of only having a 10% chance to activate but it can activate up to 3 times, as opposed to 20% for 1 time here. So, your mileage again may vary. I think that this card is okay. If you don't have Sick Day Kaho, she's a pretty good one, as Kaho doesn't have very many dedicated supports. A lot of her is kind of either, or at least for vocal, she has a good visual support, obviously through Twilight's collection. And vocal, she's already had Sick Day, but if you don't have her, again, this card works out pretty well. If we take a look at her masteries, she has access to a couple things that are worth talking about. Unit Mastery Vocal Uncap reaches +4 by level 75. So that means for every Hokuto member you work with, that's +4 to your maximum vocal. So if you run the full lineup and everybody's in the room at the same time, you're getting +16 to your vocal uncap, which is cool. If it happened every single time, it would be insane, but it's not going to happen every single time. She also has access to Vocal Mastery Stamina, which reaches +5 at level 80, and it's +3 at level 55, which means you're getting most of what you want from it without even having to get extra copies of her. This is already really good because Stamina Masteries are useful in every single mode, so having access to this on a permanent is great. It's always good to see the permanent supports get abilities you want to see revolving around your team. Unit Mastery SP reaches +8 at level 70, and it's +5 at level 60. So again, just like the previous ability, you're not losing out on a ton by not having her maxed out, and you're getting a lot of what you need from her right out of the gate. The last mastery she has is Unit Mastery Vocal, which is +4 at level 75, +2 at level 65. So at most, you would need to get 1 extra copy of Kaho to get this available at +2. So it's not a super mandatory skill, but it'll help in little bits and places here and there. To recap, she only really needs 1 duplicate to unlock all of her necessary abilities, and she's not really that far from full power by 2-star either. The biggest contention is if her SP gain is valuable enough to some versus the mental gain of Sick Day Kaho. Sick Day has technically the stronger passive by having more attention tied to it, but it has a lower activation chance. So, it all really depends on if you value SP more or mental more. If you like SP more, this Kaho's a lot better, and technically also has access to Vocal Uncap, so you actually have a higher vocal ceiling you can reach with this card as well, at the trade-off of having a little less mental and maybe a little less stable. It's hard to say. The other thing, of course, to talk about is her appeal, which is a vocal 3.0 that raises your vocal by 30% for 3 turns and attention by 50% for 3 turns. Probably not going to be using this for her appeal. You're mostly going to be looking at it from the perspective of she has a good gold passive and she has good masteries. If these are things that appeal to you, then this card's worth it. But again, remember, no spark associated with the banner, which means that unless you're super lucky, you're probably not getting this card very early. So that's more or less it. Not a ton to talk about this time around, thankfully. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure to share it around, let other people know what we're doing here on the channel. Hopefully we have a banner that I think is more interesting enough that I want to really make a shiny review for. And I feel bad because Kaho is a Tonto idol for me, so it's like, I did want to talk about the banner, but time is a big crunch right now, and this was just the easier way to do it. Otherwise, it was going to be a community post, and I know not everybody seems to really care about those, but do check those out every once in a while. I'll try to keep that a little more active, since now that I'm doing these videos, I'm not doing that as often. So maybe I'll even throw up early thoughts on cards, maybe when the banners drop, or any sort of updates that maybe come through. Who knows? Either way, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I look forward to whatever banner comes next. I've been Cho. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.